What can we learn from Nordic countries that often spend half the year in complete darkness? Well, in today's video, that is exactly what we're going to be talking about. For a long time, I have just been wildly fascinated with all of the Scandinavian Nordic countries, and I really think it's interesting to look at the way that they live their lives, considering that they rank highest on the World Happiness Report time after time after time. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about 8 Nordic habits for happiness. Many of them are a little bit harder to implement in the States just because our culture is a lot different, but I still think that it gives us a lot of good jumping off points and things to consider to bring about more happiness in our own lives. Let's get into it. If you're not familiar with Nordic countries, I'm talking about places like Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and Sweden. Those are the Nordic countries, the Scandinavian countries. The first habit that you are going to see very commonly practiced in these Nordic countries is that they live their lives in rhythm with nature. Now, I think we all know that being in nature has a whole host of benefits, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally as well. There's a really fascinating study that was done by Yale University here in America, where they looked at the benefits of being outdoors, even just for 2 hours a week. And I'm going to read it straight from the study itself because it's really fascinating what they found. These studies have shown that time in nature, as long as people feel safe, is an antidote for stress. It can lower blood pressure and stress hormone levels. It can reduce nervous system arousal. It can enhance immune system function, increase self-esteem, reduce anxiety, and improve your mood. Attention deficit disorder and aggression lessen in these natural environments, which also help speed the rate of healing. Now, in Norway and Denmark and Finland and Iceland, all of these countries are much smaller and they have a lot less people than they do space. And so being outside in nature is just a lot easier. But even here in the States, I think that we could really benefit from making it a priority to be in nature more often, just to soak up all of these benefits. Another really cool thing that they do over in these Nordic countries is something known as forest schooling. And it's for younger children. And instead of going to like a traditional indoor preschool, the way that they would here in the States, they do the entire schooling outside. So all the playing, all the learning, it all happens in an outdoor environment, and it happens regardless of the weather. So rain, snow, sun, shine, it doesn't matter. You pack accordingly and you just enjoy time outside. This has a whole host of health benefits specifically, but I think especially for children, this is such a wonderful way for them to learn. Here in the States, even with my own kids, I see that their learning is a lot of what I lovingly refer to as death by worksheet. Not a fan of that strategy, by the way. But this idea of forest schooling is really, really fascinating. And actually, states like Oregon and Washington are taking notice of the benefits of doing schooling for children outside. And Washington specifically has actually passed legislation to recognize forest schools as a legitimate schooling for children. I really hope that this is something that we see more states pick up, because the benefits of having our kids outside learning in nature just far outweigh any benefit that you get from sitting in a sterile classroom. But I digress on that topic. The point here is that choosing to be outdoors more often is so good for ourselves and our children, and it's really something that we need to place a higher value on here in America. The second thing on this list is that Nordics genuinely listen when they have conversations. And I think this is in stark contrast to American conversations, because more often than not, I know that this is true for myself, and I'm sure if you were honest, it is probably true for you as well. But when you are speaking to another person and you're having a conversation, how often that before they've even gotten done speaking, are you already thinking about what you're going to say back to them? Instead of giving them your undivided attention, you are already assuming that you need to say something back, and you're thinking about what that's going to be. First of all, I think that that is an incredibly rude thing to do, and I didn't even realize that I did it until very recently, but it's something that I've been working on. But in the Nordic culture, you will have these very what they consider to be natural pauses. When somebody gets done speaking, there's a pause or a silence in the conversation simply because the person needs a minute to think about what they're going to respond with, because they were giving the other person their undivided attention. This is such a wonderful way to have more meaningful and rich conversations with other people. So a good example of maybe what this looks like is when I'm having a conversation with my friend and she's telling me about this really great trip that she has planned. Instead of responding with, wow, that sounds so great, or maybe asking her more questions about it and showing genuine interest in what she said, I might respond with, oh, I just took a trip to da-da-da-da-da a couple of months ago. Let me tell you about that. And I didn't even acknowledge what she told me. How often does this happen in our conversations? I know for me, this happens very, very frequently, and it's something that I have been trying to work on because it comes across as so rude when you tell somebody something and they seemingly take no interest in it, but rather they just jump to talking about themselves. This is something that you just don't see happen in Nordic conversations. Their conversations are very meaningful because they are interested and focused on what the other person is saying. So I would encourage you in your next conversation, if you catch yourself thinking about what you're going to respond with while they're still talking, or you find yourself responding with something about yourself immediately, try to recognize that and try to get away from doing that and see how your conversations might get better. The third Nordic habit is one that I think that we could really benefit from adopting here in America, and that is that their communication and their interactions are very honest and genuine. There's a really high value that's placed on meaning what you say and saying what you mean. They have very honest and straightforward communication. There's not a lot of beating around the bush. There's not a lot of excess language that's used. They just, if they have something to say, whether or not it's, exactly what you want to hear, they're going to say it. And this really allows them to have these very trustworthy relationships with other people. There's a lot more emphasis on meaningful conversations and a lot less emphasis on small talk. I think in America, we have perfected the art of chit chat and small talk, but I don't think that we have those deep, meaningful, honest conversations that we so often need to have. For example, here in the US, how often do you hear somebody ask somebody else, hey, how are you doing? When you go to the supermarket and you check out, hey, how you doing today? And then they'll just say, oh, I'm good, thanks. And unfortunately, I don't think that we ask how people are doing because we genuinely want to know. I think that we ask how people are doing because it's just sort of what you say. How would you feel if you asked somebody, like total stranger at the supermarket, hey, how are you doing? And then they gave you like this very honest response about how their day is going, how good it is, or maybe how good it isn't. If they unloaded all of that on you as an American, you would kind of be like, okay, I didn't really want to know all that, right? I mean, if we're honest. But in the Nordic culture, you don't ask that question unless you want to hear the actual answer. And this is what I mean when I say that they just have these really authentic conversations with one another. I don't think that it's inherently wrong to ask somebody how they're doing, but I think it would be really refreshing if we ask them out of a sense of genuinely wanting to know how they're doing and not just this passing conversation that's actually really meaningless at the end of the day. I think the way that Nordic people are very honest and straightforward with their conversations, with the lack of chit chat, but the emphasis on having meaningful conversations, is something that we could really learn and benefit from here in the States. The fourth habit on this list is one that you have heard time and time again, but it is for good reason, and that is how the Nordic people make their homes cozy and inviting. I'm sure you have all heard of the Danish concept of hygge. There's also the Swedish concept that is very similar, known as mys. I think I'm saying that right. Especially during the dark seasons in the north where they spend so much time indoors, it's really important that they have a home where they enjoy spending time. There is a lot of forethought and effort that goes into designing their homes in a way that is not only incredibly beautiful and timeless in its style. You see a lot of clean lines, a lot of natural materials like wool and wood and ceramics, a lot of bright white walls, which really help to reflect the light. And in contrast, in America, you see homes that just have way too much stuff. We do not put nearly the time and effort and forethought into designing our homes the way that the Scandinavians do. They really just have perfected this art. Our home should be really a sanctuary away from the world. It should be a place that we can come home to and relax in and feel good in. There's just so much that we can learn from Scandinavian interior design that I think as Americans, we really need to take a look at how they design their homes and look at the balance that they're able to strike between practicality, functionality, and coziness, and learn from. Number 5 on this list is something that I am so passionate about because it's something that I hate about our American culture, and that is learning the value of collaboration over competition. In Nordic culture, competition and this idea of getting ahead is just not held in high esteem the way that it is here in America. Especially when we look at things like children's sports, which I deeply believe is something that should be played by children because they enjoy playing it, not because of the winning aspect, which I don't have anything against winning, but really from birth, children are raised with the idea that it's all about winning. It's all about being number one, be the GOAT. All of these just completely ridiculous notions. Winning and getting ahead is number one. I mean, when your kids play soccer or any other sport, what is the first question that we will ask them after a game? The very first one. Do you ask them, did you have fun? Nope, that's not it. You ask them, did you win? Every single time. I don't think I've heard another question get asked before, did you win? That is all that we're focused on. And in Nordic cultures, the emphasis is much more focused on working together as a team, collaborating to figure things out. And what that does is it helps to build a society that realizes that we need one another to win and to do things and to be successful, which is such a stark difference from American culture where it's all about looking out for number one. I really think that we could learn so much about what it looks like to collaborate with other people, work together for the benefit of the whole and not the benefit of just me or just you. Like I said, I find this very, very revolting about American culture, and if there's one thing that I could change about living in America, this would be it. We need to work together. We need to work for the better of everybody and not be so focused on individualism and on winning and getting ahead. Nordic cultures they see collaboration as far more powerful than competition. Because people understand that when we come together, when we work together for the common good of everybody, that everyone benefits. And no one benefits when we're just looking out for number one. Number 6 on this list, I'm gonna try to keep very short and sweet, because if you have been around here for any longer than 5 seconds, you know that this is something that I am absolutely passionate about. And that is learning the art of being content and learning to enjoy and embrace a simple life. Scandinavians have really just perfected this art of being content and being happy with the small joys in life. Things like the sunshine being out, things like hiking with their friends, things like having a cup of coffee with a good friend, which is known as fika in Sweden. We need to learn how to enjoy these simple, ordinary moments in life. Instead of thinking that the joy in life comes from, a big promotion or a bigger house or any type of materialistic purchase. Number 7 on this list is not actually something that most of us in America can do, but it is something that I just love about Nordic culture, and that is that they typically walk or bike or use public transport instead of owning a car. Now, this is a lot easier over there because the size of their countries are way smaller than the US. The US is much larger and everything is a lot more spread out. So unfortunately, this really isn't something that we can do here in the States. But there is so much benefit, not only just for the environment, but also for our physical bodies when we choose to walk or bike where we need to go. I think that this is such a cool thing that they have access to, and I love that they do it regardless of the weather. If it's raining, if it's snowing, they'll still walk, they'll still bike, and I just love that. So maybe in America, we can't walk or bike where we need to go, but maybe we could reduce the amount of time we spend driving. Maybe we choose to do all of our errands in one day instead of feeling like we have to run out to town every day to do something. A friend of mine, Katie, talks to me about this, and I just love it how she lives so close to a Trader Joe's that her and her kids will walk to Trader Joe's and get their groceries and then walk with it home. I also heard from Madison Gray, another YouTuber, that when she was in Italy, they would walk to the store and only get what they needed to eat for that week, and then they would walk home. I wish this is something that we had better access to here in America, and I know that in some places they are trying to make it more biking and walking friendly. Actually, in places like Boulder, Colorado, walking and biking is very, very normal. But I just think that this is such a cool Nordic habit that they have access to. All right, number 8 on this list is a Swedish tradition where they only eat candy one day a week, or they limit the sweets to one day a week. There is a word for it. We have been trying to figure out how to say it.
I can say it.
Can you say it?
Lördagsgodis.
Hang on, maybe if I listen to it, I can.
Lördagsgodis.
Lördagsgodis.
Lördagsgodis?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a very hard word.
Yeah, Swedish is an awesome language. Can't speak it to save my life. But it's this idea that they save eating candy for one day a week, typically on Saturdays. I think that word actually translates to Saturday coziness, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong if you know. But this just gives them something to look forward to during the week. It obviously also helps their waistlines and their kids' waistlines, cuts down on cavities. Here in America, it's way more commonplace to have sweets like every day. I mean, how often do we have dessert?
Like always.
Every night we have dessert. And over in Sweden, it's not like that. And I think that that is something that not only would benefit our health, obviously, our children's teeth would probably benefit from that as well. It gives you something to look forward to. When I was doing research on this topic, from what I read, it's something that is really kind of a tradition that the families look forward to every week on Saturday. So I just love that, and I think that that's something that maybe we can adopt. What do you think?
Like maybe every like Sunday.
Yeah.
Like on Saturday we go to the Dollar General.
Yeah, the Dollar General. I think that that would be a really fun thing that we could adopt as a family. It would help us to cut down on eating so much sugar and also give us a tradition that we can look forward to every week. So there you have it, 8 Nordic habits for happiness. I really enjoyed making this video. Like I said at the beginning, I have always been fascinated with Scandinavian everything, all the Nordic cultures, ice bathing. I did ice bathing for a while until my ice bath broke. But anyway, this has been a really fun video to make. I hope that it gives you guys some things to think about, some things to consider. I don't think everything in our American culture is perfect or even good. And so I hope that, and so I hope that this gives you guys something to think about, something to consider. If there's any other Nordic habits that I didn't mention here that you think that we could also benefit from, go ahead and throw those down below. Thank you to Jameson for joining me at the end of this video. We were trying to figure out how to say that word. He did it a lot better than I did. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.